Talk about a story that is just wild. It's about insane growth, breaking all the rules, and almost complete self-destruction. This is the story of how Uber built a global empire and then came this close to burning it all down. Let's get into it.
So get this. At its absolute peak, and this is before it even went public, mind you, Uber was valued at a staggering $70 billion. I mean, think about that number. $70 billion. That made it one of the most valuable private companies in history. It wasn't just some big company. It was a titan, a force of nature that felt unstoppable.
But you know how these stories go. Just as they hit that incredible high point, the whole empire starts to crumble, right from the inside. And that really brings us to the big question, the one we're going to unpack today. How did it all go so terribly wrong?
Okay, so to really get the fall, you gotta understand the rise. And the rise was genius. It all started with an idea that was just so simple it was brilliant.
It's kind of hard to remember now, isn't it? But just try to think back to 2009. If you needed a ride and didn't have a car, what did you do? Your options were, well, they were frustrating. You were basically at the mercy of the old school, slow, and super unreliable taxi industry.
I mean, that whole industry was just begging to be disrupted, right? Hailing a cab could take forever, you'd be standing on a street corner, hand in the air, you never actually knew if one would show up. And the price? It always felt kind of random and way too expensive. These were problems everyone had, just this massive shared frustration waiting for someone to fix it.
And boom, this was Uber's fix. It was so simple it was almost funny. You just pull out your phone, tap a button, and a car shows up, like magic. It solved everything. Speed, reliability, cost, all in one go. It was elegant, it was powerful, and people went nuts for it.
So you've got this product that literally everyone wants. Uber didn't just grow, it exploded. But how it grew? That's the key. Their strategy was aggressive, it was controversial, and it was all built around that famous or maybe infamous Silicon Valley motto.
And just look at this timeline. It shows you the insane speed we're talking about. In just a handful of years, they went from one city to a full-blown global empire. We're talking hundreds of cities. The pace was something the world had literally never seen before.
And here's the kicker. This is the core of their whole strategy. In a lot of these cities, Uber was, it was technically illegal. They just completely ignored taxi regulations, blew past local laws. Their whole philosophy was launch first, ask for forgiveness later. Or maybe not even ask at all.
And the crazy thing is, it worked. This break-all-the-rules approach was a massive success. By the time city officials and regulators even knew what was happening, Uber was already part of daily life for millions of people. Investors saw this, loved the aggression, and just started pouring in billions. And that's what sent their valuation into the stratosphere.
But here's where the story takes a turn. That move fast and break things idea, it wasn't just for conquering cities. No, it seeped right into the company's DNA. It created a culture inside the company that was every bit as aggressive and as chaotic as the wars they were fighting on the outside.
This really paints the picture, doesn't it? Uber was fighting a war on two fronts. On the outside, they were battling taxi drivers, regulators, even entire governments. But at the same time, on the inside, they were dealing with a seriously toxic culture, total chaos, and some really serious allegations.
And the guy leading this charge, the general of this two-front war, that was the founder, Travis Kalanick. He was the architect of this whole relentless, win-at-all-costs culture. For him, it was all about growth, and it didn't matter what it cost to get there.
But you can only operate like that for so long, right? That kind of mindset, it doesn't stay behind closed doors forever. Sooner or later, the consequences of everything they'd done started to catch up with them. And the world? Well, the world started to strike back.
And then it all just started to unravel. Fast. Suddenly, there were these damning reports about a toxic work culture. Whistleblowers came forward describing a company that was just pure chaos. Really serious allegations went public. And then the top executives, they just started leaving, one after another.
And this is the really crucial part. The whole story just flipped. One day, Uber is the hero, the scrappy startup that saved us all from terrible taxis. The next day, they're the villain. The hero had become the problem.
The pressure, both from investors and from the public, just became too much. And then something happened that I don't think anyone saw coming. The unthinkable. Travis Kalanick, the guy who built this whole global empire from scratch, was forced out, forced to step down as CEO of his own company.
Now, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right? Founders out, companies in flames, but it wasn't. What happened next is where we find the real lesson in all of this. This is where we learn about the true high cost of chaos.
Somehow, against all odds, the company managed to pull back from the brink. New leadership stepped in, started the massive job of cleaning up the culture, and slowly, piece by piece, they stabilized the ship. In a weird way, Uber actually survived itself.
So that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? After all that, the chaos, the fights, the near total collapse, what are we supposed to learn from the Uber story? What's the real takeaway here?
I think the lesson is a really powerful paradox. On one hand, Uber proved that super aggressive, rule-breaking growth, it can build you an empire faster than anyone thinks is possible. But, and this is the huge but, if you let that growth go completely uncontrolled, it creates a culture so toxic, so chaotic, that it will absolutely destroy the very thing you built.
And that right there, in a nutshell, is the high cost of chaos. It's the story of how a simple idea took over the world, and in the process, almost burned itself to the ground.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. When you look at stories like this, you just have to ask yourself, is this kind of chaos, is it just the price you have to pay for true world-changing innovation?